Oh, bass heads, what's good? Let's see. Do I have audio? Yep, you'll notice I'm not waking up, but something, I just wanted to go live. No fancy camera. This is the FaceTime camera, all that. And I saw a post on one of the bass guitar forums on Facebook. And it really just made me want to go live here. And the post is, I'm not going to share, I'm going to just read the post. Post says, I just brought a bass and I'm a beginner. What are some songs I could learn? Let me read that again. I just bought a bass and I'm a beginner. What are some songs I could learn? There are now 121 comments. 121 comments. This person is going to go down a rabbit hole. They're going to get frustrated and they're going to quit. They're not going to see any improvement. They're not going to take inventory because they won't know how to take inventory of how things should sound. They're going to go on the internet and they're going to get all kinds of conflicting advice. Some good advice, some not so good advice. But the bottom line is they're going to get a lot of advice. Paralysis by analysis. Hey, Nalan, what's happening, my friend? So, because it's the internet, this is what I did. I had to comment. I had to. But that's one space, and I got the YouTube space here. So this is what I'm going to share with you guys. You know, from the day I started this YouTube channel, it has always been about you coming into my space, us communing together. We kicking it. We just playing it. I can't teach you everything. Maybe I can teach you nothing. Maybe I can only show you things. That's it. Because I didn't learn that way. But this is what I wrote to this person. I said, please take this response with the good intentions that I'm trying to deliver it in. Number one, why did you buy a bass? Why did you buy the bass? This is one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of private lessons. Because no offense, but I ain't nobody's therapist. I don't have time to just kick it because I have other things I need to do. Time is money. So, you know, all those things. And the thing that I get off on teaching is when I know that somebody, and some teacher is going to watch this and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to give somebody something. It's going to open up an idea. It's like unwrapping a Christmas. I don't have kids, but you guys who have kids, you know, when you see your kid unwrap their Christmas present, and you see the excitement on their face. That's how I have always been as an educator. It's like when I see somebody make the connection. And then they take that thing and they practice and they open doors and they go to the next thing. So I said, why did you buy a bass? Right? The second question. 2, what music? Y'all hear me say this all the time. And I don't really think, if you hear somebody now saying this, I've been saying this for years. For years on the internet, I've been saying for years, what music do you listen to that inspired you to buy that bass? Learn that music. I said the internet is great and a lot of well-intentioned people here, but get off the internet. Put on some headphones and fumble around with the music that you like. I grew up in the 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s. I started playing bass 82, 83. Right before that, it was guitar. I had an uncle named Donald. We call him Donald Duck. And he had a Strat. And I tried to fumble around on that. And then I heard bass and I was like, oh, I want to do that. And at that time, I'm into Prince. I'm into Duran Duran. I'm into all of that stuff. And so, you know, there was all these different things. It was the look, the sound, and all this. But we had so fewer distractions at that time that you put on the headphones, man. You learn how to tune your shit, And then and then you get to a point where you're like, damn, well, I don't want to, I want to know something, and I don't really know what I don't know. And can you relate to what I'm saying? Let me know if you can relate to what I'm saying. We're just kind of fumbling around things and you don't know what you don't know, right? I want to share something with you, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. And it's interesting. I saw something similar to this. We have access to so much information. We can find information now. But there was a time when you hear something and you think that where you're hearing it from is so profound and stuff, and it is true. But then when that person takes it as their own, as though they're the originator of it, and then you find out, oh shit, this has been around since the 60s, and these are principles that have been around forever. Y'all take how I'm saying however you want it, but this is why I'm on here without the fancy cameras and all that. I'm always trying to be transparent. But in psychology, there's Kolb's 4 stages of learning. There's learning stages, 5 stages of learning. The first level is you don't know what you don't know. So you have an acquisition stage, then you have a fluency stage, a retention stage, an endurance stage, and then a generalization stage. So acquisition, you're getting new information, but you have to put that information into some sort of practice. My hand goes here. I do this with my hand. Then you get good, whatever good is, in that thing. You get some fluency. But then you have to retain that skill, right? You can't just do something. And that's the problem with like the internet and and licks and all that stuff. Like you get licks, man, and like you don't fucking know how to use that, then what good is it? And there are other areas of your life where you are competent. Think about any job that you've had where you have that new thing. You know what I mean? Nolan says, funk music inspired me to buy my bass guitar last month. That's also part of the reason I follow your channel. Nolan, I love you. I love having you around here, and I love seeing your face around here. Love seeing your comments and all that stuff. Yeah, so funk music. So then I would ask, all right, if you like funk music, what funk music? And I said F-U-N-K. I said F-U-N-K. I said F-U-N-K. What kind of funk music do you like? Because if you ask somebody what funk music is, they can say all manner of things, and then you'd be like, well, that ain't really funky. I wouldn't call that funky or whatever. Where do you start with funk? Right? So for me, I didn't really understand the term funk music when I was, it was just music. It was just like, this is what I like. Right? I liked Prince. That was the first artist that I really liked. Well, Stevie Wonder was really the first artist, but the first album that I really paid attention to was Hotter Than July. That was the first time I really paid attention to an album, was Hotter Than July. And I think that same year, this is what my mother did. My mother knew her son. It was Easter Sunday. My mother gave me an Easter basket that had 3 3 records in it. It had the Gap Band 3, Yarbrough and Peebles, and Hotter Than July. She gave me albums for Easter. My mother was a person that loved giving gifts. She loved giving gifts. She loved giving gifts. And she loved loving her son. Her only son. And I ain't no mama's boy. Now, she ain't raised no punk. She didn't raise me. I'm not, you know. Some of y'all be having like little connotations in your brains about only children and stuff. But anyway, but she understood that I had a love of music. She didn't know how to nurture that. She had no idea how to nurture that, but she certainly didn't discourage it in any way. And anytime she got, said, oh, let me get him this, she did that, right? She just kind of put it in my path. So it was the Stevie Wonder. And that Stevie Wonder Hotter Than July record is not a record that you could really call funk, because Master Blaster was the hot single off that record. And Master Blaster is more of a reggae tune. And then you got, and I didn't know what reggae was. I'm gonna just tell you the story. This is a true story. That year, so I just loved everyone. I loved it. And it brought up images for me. I can remember in the 80s they had miniseries. Remember miniseries? And there was a show that was running at the time about a white guy who was a samurai swordsman or some shit like that. I don't know. But it was also Mardi Gras time. And my mother and one of her co-workers took me to a Mardi Gras parade. And I can remember having a conversation with this woman. And we started talking about music, and they were understanding that I really had this love, this enjoyment of music. And so she asked me, she says, do you like reggae? And I said, what's that? And then I might have said something like, I like this Stevie Wonder song. She said, that's reggae. So what does that do to a child? Then that says, well, all right, let me investigate this reggae thing. But then also on that record, there's rock. On that record, there's country. That album, don't wanna only want it down in me. But somebody been picking in my cherry tree. Y'all know what song I'm talking about. And I ain't gonna Shogun! Nalan for the fucking win. Nalan for the win. Nalan kneeling. That was the one. That was the show. It was Shogun. Who are you, woman? Who are you? That is the show. That was the show. It was Shogun. That was it. And now I gotta look it up. It was Shogun. And oh gosh, Richard something was the actor. I just pulled it up. Yep. It was 1980. 1980. Richard Chamberlain. Yep, that was it. Nalan, look at you. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, from that point, I start going down different rabbit holes. You see what I'm saying? My exposure to music was, since my dad was in the military, and he's black, so is my mom, just so you know. Raised in the 50s and 60s, they listened to Motown, as most black people did, as most people did, right? So there was Motown. My dad is a big, my dad likes crooners. So, there was a lot of Johnny Mathis I heard, a lot of Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis, all of that kind of crooner stuff. My father loves broken-hearted love songs. He calls it begging music is what my dad calls it. But That was that influence. And then also Armed Forces Radio, they just kind of play a smattering of everything. So I just got exposed to everything, you know. Does that make sense? You gotta find out, you know, like you gotta like see what your bag is. What is the thing that brought you to the instrument? What was that? And then allow that to take you down the rabbit hole. So when I start listening to Prince and start really getting into Prince and like starting to, you know, like what is it that I like about this? When I was teaching in schools, I always wanted kids to come up with vocabulary, just language to describe. You like this. Why? Why do you like it? And then they have to not just give me their slang words. Okay, there's a place for that. But then we got to also learn different vocabulary to describe why we like that. Why do you like that? And then go down that rabbit hole. So for me, Prince, who is Prince inspired by? When I'm looking at him in the 80s, I'm like, I see these high collars. I see Elvis. I see the dance moves. I see James Brown. What's that James Brown thing about? Does that make sense? And you can't get it all at one time. It's got to be a journey. So the 4 stages of competence. 1, there's unconscious competence. I wanted to read this because when I just hit live, sometimes I ramble. So sometimes I ramble. 1, there's unconscious incompetence. You don't know what. Write this down. Somebody write this down. And if you haven't liked the channel yet, like, subscribe, all that stuff, right? Do it. Unconscious competence. You don't know what you don't know. The skill gap is invisible to you. So mistakes feel random, or you don't even recognize that they're mistakes. You don't know what you don't know, right? Think about being a beginner who doesn't realize how complex playing bass could really be. When I first started playing bass, I was like, I want to play controversy. Bum, 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 F sharp, F sharp, don't. I didn't know about all this other shit. You know what I mean? And then when you get to the second stage, there's conscious incompetence. Conscious incompetence. You realize what you don't know. Bing! Light bulb goes on. And now you can see mistakes clearly. But fixing them is difficult. You can see mistakes clearly, but fixing them is difficult. This is the frustrating stage where progress feels slow, but your awareness is growing. The next stage is conscious competence. Conscious competence. You can perform whatever skill it is, but you have to concentrate. Think about learning how to ride a bike. If you haven't been on a bike for years, decades, some of us, I ride a bike all the time, but if you haven't been on a bike for a long time, you could that's why they say just like riding a bike. But at one time, you had to think about it. You had to really put some conscious thought into that, right? So you can perform the skill, but you have to concentrate. You're thinking through every step, every hand placement, every rhythm. It works, but it takes effort. And then we get to that unconscious competence level. Unconscious competence. The skill has become second nature. Muscle memory takes over, and now you can execute without consciously thinking. This is when everything feels like a new language. It feels fluid, okay? This is not something that I made up. This model, these stages are not something that I made up. The model comes from psychology and education research in the 1970s. And it's been applied everywhere from sports coaching to business training. The catch is this: people often cycle through these stages for different aspects of the same domain. For instance, a professional bass player might be at an unconscious competence level with certain grooves, but still have a conscious incompetence level when it comes to tackling certain techniques. Here's an example from my own life. I've been playing bass a long, long time. I don't know everything there is to play about bass. I don't play all styles well. The shit I play well, I play well. I'm good. I'm a good bass player. I'm a good player. I don't need nobody patting me on the back. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at my bag. But there's shit that I struggle with, right? So, I got homies that are real dyed-in-the-wool hardcore jazz players. They're going to have way more walking lines, all that stuff under their fingers. They're going to solo differently or better. Better is subjective, but they're going to do all those things differently than me. And not that I can't do it, but I have to, but there's more thought that needs to go into it. You see? So back to what has inspired me to go live, and I'm really going to get off here because I'm really trying to have an off day and get my brain together. This Facebook post in the bass forum is what really got me. Really got me, man. Let me read it to you again for the people who just showed up. What's inspiring this live stream? I'm in damn near all the bass player groups on Facebook. I don't always subscribe to. I don't always comment, but there's stuff that I be seeing. So now, 59 minutes ago, this person wrote, "I've just bought a bass. I'm a beginner. What are some songs I could learn?" Now, it's an innocent question. And they might not be subscribed to the channel. So you need to go over to the bass forum and tell them you need to go and subscribe to TED Talks Bass, where the man gonna act a little crazy sometimes, but he gonna tell you some real practical shit. Listen. In 59 minutes, there are 153 comments. 153 comments. Now, what is going to happen? What could potentially happen to that person? All right, let's look through some of these comments. First off, how do you sift through 153 comments? And then, how do you parse out the advice that you take? Here are the comments. I'm not reading all of them. Seven Nation Army. Okay. Lick It Up. Mainly one note. Louie Louie. Okay. Phantom of the Opera by Iron Maiden. Okay. I started with ZZ Top. Most bass lines are very simple. Okay. Louie Louie. First song I ever learned. Still fun to play today. All right. I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones or Money by Pink Floyd is a good one to practice with. Oh, this is a good piece of advice right here. Pick a song you love and know all the words to. I like that bit of advice. But by this, we're already like few comments deep, so no. Here's one. The songs you want to play. Learn the song. Learn songs. Lots and lots of songs. Learn songs and don't be afraid to sound like shit playing them. Or, let me give you another bit of advice. So, real talk. Now, I talk a lot about Songmaster and Songmaster Pro. Yes, I'm an affiliate. Yes. And yes, if you make a purchase, I get a commission. But why would I talk about a tool like this. I'm just going to put the link on the screen. You do with the link whatever you will. Those of you who are subscribed to the channel already, you have seen me use this app in real time. It's a web app. I mean, it's a desktop app. It's not a mobile app. Everything don't have to be a mobile app. Everything does not have to be a mobile app. Because when you sit down, if you're really serious about learning the instrument, you sit down, you find a place to practice. You find a place distraction-free to learn. You sit down with Songmaster. I can isolate the bass tracks, hear bass tracks. I can slow things down. I can work up tempo, all that. And then one of the coolest things is I can take the bass out and play along with that record. That was one of my favorite things to do when I was really just learning how to play the bass. That was one of my favorite things to do, was to sit down and say, I'm going to play along and as much as I can get this bass line note for note and play along with the recording. Some of y'all that watch this channel, that's all you really want to do. You want to come home after work, you want to, or get on a break and say, I'm working on this song. Boom, you sit there, you extract the bass part and you play along with the record. I'm a guarantee you that is. So Palau says, I like Malay. See, like, I don't know anything. There's a song, I might go live again later on today. There's a song by Megadeth that I really like. I have always really loved this song. It's called Angry Again. I love it. I love the harmonies in the song. And I love there's a it's a great song to learn. And because it's got these triads, these shapes. I'm like, what is that? And going through that learning process. You know what I mean? I'm going to go live later on today because y'all need to see that. And you just have to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, But playing bass is not that hard. It ain't rocket science. It's pocket science. I keep trying to tell y'all that. Now, I've wasted 27 minutes of your time. Go practice. Hit the bell for notifications. Peace.